I always tell you, go look at your numbers. Now, sometimes looking at the numbers, especially when things are not as great, can be scary and not reaffirming. But at least looking at the numbers allows you to confront what is happening.
T-minus 10 seconds.
Welcome to the Journey to Launch podcast with your host, Jamila Souffrant. As a money expert who walks her talk, she helps brave journeyers like you get out of debt, save, invest, and build real wealth. Join her on the journey to launch to financial freedom in
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, listen up. Finding ways to increase and supplement your income is something I love talking about. Like, we all want to hopefully make more money in a way that feels good. So I'm excited to team up with former Journey to Launch podcast guest Terry Ijeoma to share her live one-day intensive from zero to your first trade. It's happening on September 21st at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a live training. So that's this Saturday, September 21st at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, where you'll learn the basics of investing in the stock market, how to open a brokerage account and choose the right broker for you, and how to select, buy, and sell your first stock. Now, Terry has helped thousands of people do this already. I know journeyers who have taken her previous course, Trade and Travel, and have done really well or just have learned so much. And so when Terry said she was doing this intensive training for one day and it's going to be live, taught by Terry, I was like, okay, I'm going to share this again with my audience. So you can go to journeytolaunch.com/Terry to check it out. Remember, it's happening this Saturday, September 21st at 12 p.m. Go to journeytolaunch.com/Terry to check it out. That's journeytolaunch.com/Terry, Terry. If you want the episode show notes for this episode, go to journeytolaunch.com or click the description of wherever you're listening to this episode. In the show notes, you'll get the transcribed version of the conversation, the links that we mentioned, and so much more. Also, whether you are an OG journeyer or brand new to the podcast, I've created a free jumpstart guide to help you on your financial freedom journey. It includes the top episodes to listen to, stages to go through to reach financial freedom, resources, and so much more. You can go to journeytolaunch.com/jumpstart to get your guide right now. Okay, let's hop into the episode. Well, hello there, journeyers. It's Jamila Souffrant, your Chief Launch Officer, as I like to say. But hi, it's been a minute since I've done a solo episode, since I always like to say I'm recording this episode in my office. I'm looking at, my walls and all the things on it, and it's just me, but I know this will eventually get to your ears. So I try to imagine talking to a group of people so that I can stay engaged and have the energy to do the solo episodes, because they're a little tougher than maybe the interviews where I can bounce questions off of someone else. And quite frankly, I just think interviews are a bit easier. When you have a solo episode and you're just talking by yourself, you got to carry the whole show. So here I am. I wanted to do a solo episode because it's been a minute since you've had new episodes. I know a couple new episodes started running, but I wanted to just give you updates on what's been going on with me and some lessons I've learned through some experiences through the summer and what I'm preparing for next. So this is going to be just an update. If you are looking for more financial tips, and if you came here for strictly Jamila, give me the financial independent information, have tons of episodes where you can go back and find that. But if you want to learn a little bit more about me, if you are not sure who I am yet, or if you've been following me for a while and you want to get updated, stay tuned. I also find that sharing my own experience and my own journey is one of the reasons why I've been able to connect so well with journeyers. So by the way, journeyers are what I call people on this journey to financial independence and freedom. That's what I call you guys if you're on this journey with me. So I always find that when I do meet you in real life, the things you appreciate, even just the comments, like if there's a feedback from the podcast or just on social media, it's like, wow, I actually like to hear from you because you're like my homegirl or someone that I actually know in my real life, sharing what's going on. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. Here is just a quick overview of what I'll be talking about. And then I always like to break down like lessons learned and things that you can apply to your own life and journey, and those applicable advice or tips that can also benefit you. But what I'm going to be talking about is just summer break. So I know we are now in September if you're listening to this in real time. But, for us, especially in New York, our summer break is a little bit later than some states. So my kids were off at the end of June, and we had July and August off. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how not only they had a summer break and weren't in school or camp, but I had a summer break. I hardly worked this summer, and I wanted to talk more about how I prepared to do that, like how I prepared to almost take time out of my business, how things went, handling kind of the uncertainty of like business and finances. I'm going to share that with you. And then just what we did this summer. Also going to share some cool things that I'm going to be doing, like running a half marathon. It's going to be my first half marathon. So I'll talk more about that later, but I'm going to be running in the Reggae Marathon. It's a marathon or half marathon and race held in Jamaica, the beautiful island, my home island of Jamaica. That's going to be in December. So I'm going to be sharing more about that and how I'm preparing for it, and then some other upcoming events and projects that I'm working on. So let's jump back a little bit. Summer vacation. So this summer we did things a little bit differently. We did not send our kids to camp. Now, typically my kids right now are 10, 8, and 6, all 2 years apart, very full of energy in life. And so for the past, I'd say 3 years, we were sending them to a camp just because I always felt like I cannot hold their attention in the summertime. I don't want them to be just home on their iPads or watching TV. And in the past few summers, I've been busy with projects. So last summer, I was busy writing and finishing up my book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom. So I was in the thick of last edits, and it was just a lot. So I just knew that, they're going to go to camp. And in previous years, I just felt like I don't know how to entertain them, so they need to go to camp. And this year, we were feeling a bit like, well, especially me, I shouldn't say we, because when I first told my husband, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't send them to camp, he was like, what? What are they going to do all day? But I said to myself as the summer was approaching, when, I had to give in the final balance for camp payment, I was like, it just feels like a lot. It feels like, one, a lot of money. I have 3 kids, so sending them to this camp is a lot of money. And also, I knew that I wasn't going to be that busy this summer. Things have been pretty slow for me business-wise, quite honestly, 2024. So I knew that it's not like I had like major big projects that I knew about and I'd be super busy and I couldn't, and I needed my full attention and I needed to be in my office most of the day. I knew that wasn't really the case. I also knew, my husband, he's a teacher, so he is typically off in the summer. And so I thought, we both are going to be home. We both are not that busy. I mean, we like to do our separate things. He likes to work out. I like to work out. We kind of loved, that's the thing I loved about the summertime and when they went to camp, because it felt like we were on our mini vacations every day because we dropped them off and then we could do whatever we wanted without the kids. So that meant going to the beach without them. It meant him going to work out for as many hours as he wanted, me doing my own thing, working out and working on my projects, us going out to eat randomly in the middle of the day. So it felt really good when they were in camp and we had all that free time. But I said, I just feel like there's something about this time frame, like in their lives right now at their ages, that it feels pretty special to have them home. And like, why not try? Like, we can figure it out. They're playing competitive basketball right now, the boys. And so that requires and involves a lot more practice. So it's like we can use this as an opportunity for them to get more workouts in on our own pace. We can use this as an opportunity to try different things. And then, quite honestly, the cost that it would be to send them to camp, we can use that money for other things this summer, for trips. And, it's not that I thought we would be actually saving money, because I knew once they were home, we'd probably spend a bit more on going out to eat and trips. But I thought, I think that's a better trade-off. So we decided no camp and went with it. And I'm happy to report we all survived. And it wasn't that bad. Again, I know we have the luxury of being 2 parents who I have a flexible schedule. I can choose what I want to do. And so I barely worked. And then my husband, because he is a teacher, he was off. So I know not all parents can have that luxury of choice. And I feel very blessed. We feel very blessed to be able to be with them in this way. Also, I keep thinking about their ages and at how some point they're going to be, whether they have jobs, summer jobs, or are more busier and they, we cannot have them. I wouldn't say under our control, but, we have more influence of them or over them at these ages that it just felt like a really special time to be together and to do more fun things together as a family. So we made that work, and it did work. It worked really, really well. Now, the thing about it is I knew that if I was going to have them home, that I wanted to be available to them when needed. So it's not that we had to have things planned out every day, but I didn't want to have to be pulled into work. And so before taking the summer off, for the most part, I prepared by really looking forward in the business, like what needed to happen. So, for example, the podcast. Now, I've always prided myself on releasing an episode every week, a new episode every week for years. And I think maybe it was a couple summers ago that I stopped doing that. In the summertime, I started to do reruns because I wanted to give myself some grace in, allowing the catalog, this what I think amazing catalog of interviews and information to breathe a bit. And so maybe there are some episodes people didn't hear, or just me taking a break and not having to record. And so I knew I didn't want to record any interviews in the summertime. And so looking forward, I looked at, okay, how many episodes do we need to have on deck? And how can we get those selected for listeners and then edited? Maybe some things, if the episode aired 4 years ago or 3 years ago, there may not be some pertinent information in there. So do we edit those out? How does that look? And then also just for the other parts of my business, which are social media. So promoting things on social media, promoting episodes, and my newsletter that I send out every week. How do I prepare for those things to be ready to go without me sitting at my desk needing to do that? And so a big part of that always is having help. Hiring and having people who can help me. And I think as a business owner, sometimes, especially small business, especially if you're not earning a lot of money or things are slow, you do go through that. Should I just do it myself and not pay that person to do it? Or should I pay the person to do it and free up my time? Now, I know sometimes people will say, well, if you can use that time that you would spend doing that task to do a money-making task or to do a higher level CEO task. So instead of you, scheduling the email or doing that mundane task that someone else can do, you can be thinking of the bigger vision and doing that work that only you can do. You should do it. But, honestly, sometimes it's not about me replacing or giving someone else my work so that I can go do something else and keep myself busy. It's just giving out work and paying people to do the things I don't want to do so that I don't have to do anything. And sometimes that's a stretch because, you feel like, or you're made to feel like, well, if you're going to pay someone to do this, or if you're resting and not doing any work, like that's bad. Like you should be productive. You should be optimizing your time. And so I've had to sit with this summer, not really having much to do and spending money, paying other people like my social media team, paying my assistant to do work where it's like I could easily do that and save money. But I also knew that the investment to have them help me allows me that space and time and energy that I need to just be, which doesn't have a value on it. It doesn't have like, oh, well, this is going to make the business X amount of money. I have no clue how much being relaxed and what I like to say, chill in. I actually came up with this because the phrase being burnt out or burning out, you're doing so much. And I'm like, I don't ever want to be burnt out again. And I've been there before. So the opposite of burn is chill. And then the opposite of out is in. So I don't want to be burnt out. I want to be chill in. Get it? And so I feel like, I've been working on being comfortable in that position of chilling. And I don't have, a monetary amount or investment, what that becomes when I do that. And, and quite frankly, when I slow down, income has slowed down. So 2024 has been a very slow year in terms of income. Even 2023, except for my book Advance, which was very lovely, very nice. Things have been pretty slow for the business. And I anticipated that because I knew that I was focusing on writing the book in 2023. In 2024, for me, I also still kind of kept that same energy of I really loved the creative process of just creating work behind the scenes, not having to like show up on social media and do, and grow. So I think I felt like that has translated into income being slow, but I also knew that we were financially prepared for this. So we financially are prepared to have slow income months and years for my business. And reminds me, though, of all the work that it took to get to this point. So I do want to talk a little bit about that. So it wasn't just preparing to take off in terms of work, but it was also preparing and continuing to assess our finances of, okay, so if things are going to stay the same, where income is going to be moderate for the business, and I'm not going to be doing as much work, what does that look like for our family income? What do we need to change? What do we need to do differently? Do we need to do anything differently? And I want to share just some things I did or that I'm still doing to assess that we are doing okay. Because I know a lot of you too sometimes are in these positions of income fluctuating, or maybe there's a life event that requires you to change something about your finances. And so things are not as safe anymore. Or maybe you are an entrepreneur also, or someone, if you have a partner is looking to quit their job. And so you have to think about these things. And I always say like the major thing that we have done that has helped us so much is the saving part of our financial journey. And so having a big emergency fund, having that FU fund allows us so much more wiggle room than if we didn't. So if we did not save as much as we did before I quit my job, and even in the abundant months of my business or years of my business, because there were some times a couple years ago where the business was doing very well income wise. And while we, I wouldn't say we spent more as a family in those years, or even as a business. I felt like I tried to keep things pretty tame and level. It was because I was looking forward to, okay, yes, the business maybe made almost $500,000 this year, but I'm not going to spend all that money. I'm going to save or invest more than half of what I can, that take-home pay, and then also save and account for the business for the years and times when things are slower, like now. And so having that account, looking at that account. So the other thing that I think we don't talk enough about is you can have all the money in the bank accounts and kind of have those safety nets. But if you don't feel like you are currently bringing in income and you have to take out so that your savings is going down, that is like psychological, feels like, things are going in reverse, even though that's why you save the money. I know for me, every time that I do take money out of my savings account or FU account, it does feel a little bit like, wait a second, I'm used to this money like increasing because I'm saving into it, but now it's decreasing because I'm pulling from it. But also reminding myself, wait a minute, this is what this money is here for. It's to help save you. It's to help give you comfort, to give you a parachute, a soft place to land when maybe you need just a little extra help. And so leaning into that part of my life for the last couple of years feels very similar to when I quit my job, actually. So when I quit my job back in 2018, that's when I had my daughter, the business also was not making a lot of money. But we had saved up money to help cover expenses during the time in which I was going to build up some income and find ways in which I wanted to make Journey to Launch work. And I remember distinctly, even though we planned on pulling money from those accounts to help cover our expenses, because my husband's income doesn't cover everything, when like by month 6 and 7 that we were doing that, I was like, oh my gosh, I felt scared because I'm like, well, what if this keeps going? What if I never make money in Journey to Launch? What happens then? And so I would not be telling the truth if I don't say that I don't have moments of that now, where while we are okay financially, we would have to make some big changes, whether it is me figuring out something else in terms of income or changing our expenses if some of the things that I'm working on right now don't pan out, right? And so the things that I'm doing to make sure, even when I get nervous, that I don't freak out too much is I look at the numbers. I always tell you, go look at your numbers. Now, sometimes looking at the numbers especially when things are not as great, can be scary and not reaffirming. But at least looking at the numbers allows you to confront what is happening. And so when I look at my numbers and I do the math and I see we have a couple more years left, if things are still kind of slow, it allows me to feel better because I say to myself, well, things have always worked out for you. You have amazing projects and things happening behind the scenes right now, and you've always found a way to figure it out. And I feel like there's so much wealth inside of me, whether that's my ideas or my knowledge, that I can make something happen. And this confidence that I have, as I'm talking to you, it's coming out. I'm almost like, like an athlete that you forgot who you are and then they're talking to themselves about to go in the game. I feel like that's kind of what's happening now. It's like I'm reminded of who I am in this moment because things have always worked out and I've always been okay. And the wealth of knowledge and ideas and the amazing things that continue to happen, even to this day. So I don't want you to get it twisted like, oh my gosh, like Jamila's not doing that well. It's not that. It's more of like things are actually going really well, but they're different than before, which is okay. And this confidence that I have in myself, I feel like that is the kind of confidence and wealth that I would love. And I hope that you as a journeyer have for yourself. Even if things are tough or uncertain for you right now, is thinking back to all the times that it worked out and all the times in which you figured it out and leaning into the fact that you are smart. You have ideas and a wealth of knowledge within you, whether that is, maybe if you work in corporate America and, there's some projects that you can do more of or raise your hand to participate in, or maybe you have your own business. You are your best asset. And if you've been listening to this podcast or you just found it, then investing in yourself is that internal work that I talk about. It is the idea of not working till burnout or realizing the internal work and the tangential things you need to do to earn more or to feel better in your life. But that is the wealth. And regardless of what is happening around us that we cannot control, right? Like there's some things we can control in terms of maybe, especially if you're a business owner, maybe selling something, putting yourself out there more. But there's so many things that you can't control. Like a big part of my business a couple of years ago was brand partnerships. Now, that is not as much of an income source for me right now, but I'm also not going out and pursuing brand partnerships. I never did that. Usually brands would come to me, which is the way I like it. But if I needed to and I wanted to, I could pursue brands and or pitch ideas, but I just don't want to do that yet. And so I want you to think of all the ways in which there is probably things you could do to, whether that's earn more or supplement income or work less based on the knowledge you have within you. And maybe you haven't decided to deploy that knowledge yet, but know that it's within you to help you and save you when you need it. And that's the kind of thinking that gets me through these slower years, months, is falling back on me as my best asset, falling back on the solid financial foundation that I've created for myself and my family, and knowing that we're going to be okay. So that's kind of like how we've been navigating kind of the slower year of journey to launch. But I got to say, if I could be like this going forward throughout the rest of my career or working and being maybe a forward-facing brand as I am, this is how I'd want it to be, honestly. I love my pace of work right now. I love not having to work in the summer. That's my plan moving forward is how can I set myself up so that when it's July and August, I'm not doing anything. And when there are major breaks with the kids, I don't have to do anything. I don't even have to show up because things are already in place. Working a couple hours a day, even now, is which is kind of like what happens is my sweet spot. I love how that feels. And so I'm not complaining in terms of work. I don't want more work. More money is great. But I feel like leaning into this and realizing this is what I'd actually want my financially independent life to look like. I'm literally living it right now with the flexibility that I have is part of realizing this dream and journey that I set upon or that I embarked upon years ago. It's like, I wanted to get to this place and I'm here now. And so now it's just a matter of trusting the process and falling back on the foundational financial skills and all the things we've set up for ourselves. So this summer was great. The kids survived. We survived. We did a few trips. Before this was happening in late June, we did a Pokemon conference called Card Party, which was awesome. So if you have any kids that love Pokemon, I would definitely check out Card Party. That was our second year going. We probably will go again, but it's a Pokemon event for just Pokemon lovers and creators. And my boys, they have a blast every time they go. And it's put on by Pat Flynn, of Smart Passive Income, the very popular podcast. So check it out if you have kids that love Pokemon. So we did that. We did Disney World again because the Pokemon conference Card Party was in Orlando. So I was like, if we're in Orlando, we might as well go to Disney. And that's the kind of flexibility that I love with my time and money that we can do. So we did that. We also went to Jamaica. So that was a really nice trip. So I was born in Jamaica, and bringing my kids back there was like high on the list of things to do because they haven't been. My oldest son went when he was 1, but he doesn't remember that. And then my other kids never went. I have family back there. I have a sister that lives in Jamaica, a couple brothers. And so we made a plan as a family, like, let's go there. Let's hang out with my sister, my nieces and nephews, and really show the kids like island life. And so we did a lot of touristy things. We did all the touristy things. Like, my sister is such a G. We were driving all over to seeing all the, hot spots, tourist hot spots like Duns River Fall, YS Falls, a lot of beaches. And so we did a lot, but we also stayed local. We stayed with my sister. So I felt like my kids got the best of both worlds. They got to really experience Jamaica, like the real Jamaica, especially being with someone who lives there and can show us, she's like, whenever we approach someone, like, don't talk. Because if you talk, they're going to charge you more. They're going to know you're American. Let me talk. And so I love that the kids got to experience that and they had a blast. So that was fun. We went to Atlanta. And I'm just like, this is the life. This is the life that I've always wanted, and I'm living it. And so we did have a great time, and I can't wait for next summer where we're not confined by, school and school times and waking up early, and we can just do our own thing. So that was really, really fun. 10 out of 10 recommend. And I know, again, that some parents just can't do that because you're working and you have to work, and, you don't have the luxury of maybe taking time off. But really, if there is a way for you to plan, some extended time off and, financially, and whether you're going somewhere or not, and you have kids or maybe you don't, to think about how you can plan that in your life or dream it in your life. So 10 years ago when I started to have kids and I was working, while I knew what I wanted my financially independent life to look like, which involved me doing whatever I wanted, I could not have specified the exact things that I'm doing now. But I knew, wow, there's some alternate universe in which I get to wake up and choose what I do. And at that point, when I started my journey to financial independence and journey to launch, I didn't exactly know how I was going to get there, but I knew that I just followed the steps in front of me because I knew that's what I ultimately wanted. So if you're more in a beginning phase, as I like to say, the journeyer stages, or phase of you feel very far away from being able to have this flexibility, keep at it. Keep at it, because I always say, I did not know how quickly things could change for me when I started. I felt like it was taking a long time to kind of get to where I wanted to be. But then as I started to still do the work to educate myself, to immerse myself in the topics that I wanted to learn more about, put myself out there more with my business, things started to snowball in a good way. And I was able to quit my job earlier than expected, able to kind of reap the benefits of financial independence without being, a millionaire, having millions come into my household, as income. And so just keep at it, hold those dreams that you have and the flexibility that you want in your life. Hold on to them and do the work internally and externally to get yourself there. And you'd be surprised how you might find yourself next year in a couple years in the position that you're dreaming of or thinking about. Hi, Jamila here, host of this podcast and author of the book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, a step-by-step guide to achieving wealth and happiness. Just a few years ago, I was in a job I didn't like with a long commute, feeling stuck. I knew there had to be a different, better way. Then I found the pathway to financial freedom and financial independence. Today, I have more money, options, and freedom than I ever thought was possible. And in my book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, I'll show you how you can achieve that too. You'll learn how to spend and save responsibly, all while enjoying that spicy margarita and extra side of guacamole. Determine where you are on the journey and evaluate your spending and saving goals accordingly. Quit your job, retire early, or reach financial independence. My book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, a step-by-step guide to achieving wealth and happiness, is out now and available on Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, and more. You can even listen to the audiobook narrated by me. Go to yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com to get a free bonus when you order the book and see all the places to buy it. Once again, go to yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is I'm doing something really, really exciting. I mean, it's also the most, I wouldn't say most, probably, you know what? It feels like the most challenging thing I've done or ever done other than giving birth is I'll be running in a marathon. So it's actually a half marathon, which is 13 miles. And it's called the Reggae Marathon. So you can go to reggaemarathon.com to learn more. It's happening on December 8th, 2024. They typically have it every year around that same time, but it's a half marathon, 10K and 5K in Negril, Jamaica. And I talked about and have talked about my running escapades on the podcast before. I picked up running back in the pandemic. I feel like a lot of people may have started to run in the pandemic because gyms were closed. And, when we were able to go outside, I felt like so many people started to go outside and to walk. And so I never considered myself someone who'd want to run. Even when I was active before kids, I usually I did CrossFit. I used to be a gymnast, so I did gymnastics as a child. But I used to really just do weight training. And so when the pandemic happened and there was no gym, I started to run kind of with my husband. And even him, he's very fit and in shape. So I wouldn't actually run with him. I'd just drive to the to the park with him and then we'd separate because I didn't want to feel like I was holding him back or having to keep up. But I really reluctantly started to run. And I remember when I tried to even just run a lap, how hard it was and how out of breath I was. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this. And eventually I worked myself up to running a mile, then 2 miles, and then 3. So I started to run in 3-mile increments, that would be my run. And so from 2020, I've started to occasionally run. And in some years, I lean on running more. So I definitely feel like in 2020 and 2021, I was running maybe 3 times a week, 3-4 times a week. And then when the gym opened back up, I was back to the gym, kind of going back and forth. But running was something, even when I was running the miles, even 3 miles, I would say, all right, I am not running anymore. As soon as I heard 3 miles, the app that says 3 miles, I would be stop, done. Because I'm not training for a marathon. I'm not trying to run faster. I'm not trying to run further. I don't feel a runner's high. I don't know what runner's high is. This just feels miserable. But I do feel good after, but during, I don't like how this feels in terms of being out of breath, but I'm going to run just because I like the benefits of it. And then as the years went on, and I have a really good friend, Shalia, who also started running around the same time, but she wants to run further. She's maybe I should run a marathon. And so whenever she told me that, I'm like, good for you. I'm just running my 3 miles and stopping. And, then I found out about the Reggae Marathon and got in touch with them, or they got in touch with me. And I'm like, wait, this is an opportunity to run in my home island of Jamaica. And it's a stretch. I mean, they have the 5K, 10K, and half marathon. So I could do a smaller race, but I'm like, this is an opportunity to actually push myself and run further. So I decided that I'm going to run the half marathon. I have about 3 months to train if you're listening to this in real time, which means I have to up my mileage. So my typical 3 miles where I just like stop, I have to run further. And as I've been training, so it's been about a week now that I've been running further. So I ran 5 miles on Monday, then 7 miles on Wednesday, and I ran 5 miles today, Friday of when I'm recording this. And every time I run more than 3 miles and I set that intention to run more than 3 miles, I do it. Because once I set an intention, I'm like, I'm not going to let myself down. But it just reminds me when I go back to the beginning of the running journey, how I never wanted to, and I never thought I wanted to run further than that. But because now I have this external goal that I've shared also publicly, so sharing it with you on the podcast, I've shared it on social media, I am so motivated to succeed at this goal. And it reminds me just of any goal or journey that we're on, whether it's financial or just think about anything that you're trying to accomplish, is that starting it, sometimes you don't even know that one, it's going to be a goal. And then when you set the goals, it's like you rise up to meet the level of needed activity and work to reach that goal. So once I know now that I have to run this marathon, I have a training regimen in place or that I want to follow. And I know that if I'm going to succeed at running this race and finishing it, that I need to do that work right now to get there. And while I'm running, mentally, physically, yes, it's tough. But I would say the hardest part of running is mental. Because once I know I've started and I hit maybe the 3 mile mark, I'm like, okay, I've been here before. I've hit 3 miles. I've run the 4 miles before. That means I can do it again. And so that mental toughness or confidence in me already having accomplished that task of running allows me to have confidence in myself that I can go further. And so that's why I think the journey to financial freedom, or just any journey that you're on, the mental part of it is so important. Because if I was running and the whole time I said, I can't do this, I've never done this before, I'm going to stop, I wouldn't make it past, I wouldn't have even continued to run after that first mile when I first started. And even as I run now, like the longest I run now is 7 miles. And in that, first of all, in that 3rd, 4th mile, I'm thinking to myself, this is so hard, but I'm going to do it. But even after my 7 miles, I still cannot fathom how I'm going to run 13 miles. But I also know that 2-3 years ago, I couldn't have fathomed running 7 miles. So it's really just a matter of showing up and conditioning myself to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, being comfortable with being pushed. And if I could run 3 miles when I thought I couldn't, and if I could run now 7 miles when I thought I couldn't, and now I've set this goal to run 13 miles, past history has shown that I could do this. So just like when I talked about just before with figuring out, how to go through slower months and downtimes in your finances and life, and thinking back to you accomplishing something before that was hard or getting through it, is like having that confidence in yourself is so important. Having people on the journey with you is so important. So my friend Shalia is also running in the marathon, and now having her, like, knowing that she's my accountability buddy, and when, she says, all right, so tomorrow you're running 7, I know that, okay, so she knows I have to run 7, I'm going to run it. And so it's really important to share with someone that you can trust within the journey, or even if if they're not in person, but you meet them online, or getting inspiration from other people who are also on similar journeys. You do not underestimate how powerful that is. Because I don't know if I'd be as motivated if it was just me and I didn't share it. So the other thing is sharing things with people. I shared it publicly on my Instagram, on Journey to Launch and Jamila Souffrant, that, I'm running. And now I feel like even if I didn't want to do it, like, I'm not backing out. Like, I shared it with everyone. I got to do this. And, my best friend is running with me too and training. I can't let her down, can't let myself down. And so these are the things, these are the, I'd say, themes that I feel like, whether it's running or finances or life, like that, they're so similar in being able to push yourself. So yes, I'm running in the Reggae Marathon. And what's really, really cool about this moment is The marathon is on December 8th, 2024. My book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, which, by the way, if you have not picked up the book, you can go to yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com. My book came out on December 5th, 2023. This is when I say, like, I just feel like sometimes, how can I lose? How can I lose in life when I feel like there are so many signs and just divine moments and not even coincidences, but, coincidences and just things that happen that seem to like not be connected, but that are connected. So I feel like I get to run 13 miles on the 12-month or around the 12-month anniversary of my book being out in the world. And I get to run it back in my home island of Jamaica. If you have read the book or followed me for a while, you know how important being Jamaican and coming here from Jamaica and how big that's a big part of my story and who I am, just being raised by my single mom who was so young when she had me, but like immigrated here from Jamaica. And so to be able to like run on my home island, kind of like to celebrate that 1-year anniversary of the book being out also was like a no-brainer for me to do it. So I'm just like, why not? And what's really cool is that before I actually really knew that I was going to do the half marathon, when it was a 6-month book anniversary launch date. So back when it was 6 months after the book came out, I ran 6 miles. So I did do that. So even though I typically only ran 3 miles, that day I said, you know what? This marks the 6th month that the book has been out. Why don't you just run 6 miles today? And I ran 6 miles. And then now that I have this opportunity to run 13 miles on the 12-month anniversary, so, 1 extra mile, but who's counting? Like, this is divine. This is supposed to be. And so I go through my life. I try to go through my life looking for the nudges from God, from trying to look at the opportunities and the obstacles, trying to look at the lessons, really trying to find the silver lining. And because of that, life feels more magical. So that's another thing that I would encourage you to do, is to find the magic in your current life right now. And you'd be surprised like how many things even the small things that remind you, okay, this is where I should be, or I am on the right track. Or maybe it's a nudge to say, hey, you're falling off a little bit, but be open, keep your head up and be aware of the miracles, the small miracles happening around you, and acknowledge them. I feel like when I acknowledge these divine things, like more of it happens. Or I just feel more gratitude about where I am and confirmation that I'm on the right path. So I encourage you to do that too. So running in the Reggae Marathon, I don't think it's too late to join me if you want to come. That's reggaemarathon.com. I'll be sharing more about my training over on Jamila Souffrant and Journey to Launch as we get there. But I'm so excited to do this. Okay, couple other things. I'll be at the Well-Read Black Girl Book Festival on October 26th. So I'm really excited about that. You can go to journeytolaunch.com/WRBG. journeytolaunch.com/WRBG. It'll just take you to the Well-Read Black Girl Festival on sale site where you can buy tickets for the festival, but it's happening in Queens, New York on October 26th. And I'm really excited because the Well-Read Black Girl brand is it's such an amazing platform, which is really founded on showcasing and promoting just reading and literary, just powerhouses, whether that's fiction, nonfiction books, like Black people writing books and encouraging Black women to read them. And so I was asked to be a part of this festival. I'm so excited, and I'll be talking. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is there's so many other amazing authors that are going to be there. One being, and I got to say, Sophia Sinclair, who wrote the book, How to Say Babylon. I picked up her book going to Atlanta over the summer, and it just struck me, the cover, the title, because I immediately knew, wait, this is something is calling me to this. And it's really it's a memoir based in sharing how she grew up in the Rastafarian household and how she had to overcome or break through from that to become who she is. And just the teaching that she does about the Rastafarian culture. it spoke to me right away just because my father was a Rastafarian and we're Jamaican. And this is, a Jamaican woman like sharing her story. And this is another confirmation and just divine, I feel like, timing, because when I was asked to be a part of this festival and then I started to see who was going to be there, I'm like, wow, I literally just picked up her book before I knew that she was going to be also speaking at this festival. And how great is that? And like, how amazing is, again, me going back to my home island and having all these connections to this story in my life. Like, again, confirmation. So I'm really excited to speak at the festival. I hope to see you there. You can go to journeytolaunch.com/WRBG. I'll have all the links of the things that I'm mentioning in the episode show notes. Check out all the authors, the amazing authors that are going to be there. Get their books, get my book, and you can get signings. You can meet us in person and hear our chat. So I'm really excited about that. I also have some exciting projects that I am working on. One of them, if you are if you're on my list and kind of in the know, you may know about this, but I'm working behind the scenes on a new community. It's called Freedom Quest. Right now we are in beta. So that means behind the scenes, we've had this community. And it's been going well. It's like the one thing I did over the summer in terms of showing up and working. Did a couple of lives within the community. So basically, this is an online hub for journeyers who want to reach financial independence, who want the community aspect and that support that is so needed when you're on this journey. And so we've been working on that in the background. There will be a more public opening. So we did a very soft opening to people who are currently in the community, but we're going to be doing a bigger one in either late fall or, early winter. So stay tuned for that. I'll definitely be talking about it more. And I'm really excited about this personal project that I've been thinking about. I can't share it yet because I feel like I have a lot more research to do. And it's not that closely related to the personal finance part of what I do. But I feel like if this project happens, I feel like it would be even more impactful than what I'm even doing now. So I'm really excited about it. And I'll share that as I feel comfortable. But I'm hoping to be able to work on that behind the scenes a lot and, see where that takes me. All right. So how was that rambly solo episode updating you on my life? I hope you enjoyed it. If you aren't new to Journey to Launch and me and the podcast and all that, check out other episodes. Scroll through, see if there's something that speaks or sparks your interest. Share this episode with someone who maybe can benefit from it. Go to journeytolaunch.com for more information. Go to yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com to check out my book. And stay tuned because we got a lot of great content for you coming up. New episodes, new interviews, and new things to share. Okay, until next week, keep on journeying, journeyers. Don't forget, you can get the episode show notes for this episode by going to journeytolaunch.com or click the description of wherever you're listening to this. And you can still grab your Jumpstart Guide for free to help you on your journey to financial freedom by going to journeytolaunch.com/jumpstart. If you want to support me and the podcast and love the free content and information that you get here are 4 ways that you can support me and the show. 1, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast wherever you listen, whether that's Apple Podcasts, that purple app on your phone, your Android device, YouTube, Spotify, wherever it is that you happen to listen, just subscribe so you are not missing an episode. And if you're happening to listen to this in Apple Podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe there. I appreciate and read every single review. Number 2, follow me on my social media accounts. I'm at Journey to Launch on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and I love interacting with journeyers there. 3, support and check out the sponsors of this show if you hear something that interests you. Sponsors are the main ways we keep the podcast lights on here, so show them some love for supporting your girl. 4, and last but not least, share this episode, this podcast with a friend or family member or coworker so that we can spread the message of Journey to Launch. All right, that's it. Until next week, keep on journeying, journeyers.